Dr. William Barris, Director of Medical Services for the Dallas Independent School District, asked that he be granted a leave of absence for personal reasons effective today. Dr. Barris, in his letter of requesting leave of absence, indicated that he was requesting this leave for reasons other than disagreement with policies and procedures of the school district.
Well, naturally, our defensive back situation will be much more difficult to fill because we think with Thomas that we have filled our void in our backfield. With defensive backs, there's hardly any way to tell, you know, which defensive back's going to be a top guy, and the only thing we can do is draft for them. Guys like Denton Fox or Charlie Waters or people like that. I mean, these fellas might be the one that will replace them. You really never know.
I'm firmly convinced, after dealing with young people for nearly 25 years now and handling thousands of cases, that you do not give juveniles answers. You have to be intelligent enough to ask the right questions so they can see the right answer for themselves. Now, I'm not saying young people should not be directed. I'm not in favor of permissive behavior. I am saying that a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still, if you'll pardon the trite old saying. So all we can do, all we can hope to do, is create a situation in which the child will see this is a better way. And by doing that, we will have accomplished our purpose. I do that in court, incidentally. I never challenge a child in court. I never say, if you do this again, I'll do that. I may say, son, if you do something to bring you back, you will force me to have to take this action, which I don't want to do. So I hope that you will be able to see it my way.
What kind of results have you been getting?
In our volunteer program?
Yeah.
Fine. Last year, for example, in one of our group homes, 12 boys went through it. All went in were failing, some failing everything. At the end of the year, everyone was passing, and one was on the honor roll. And perhaps even more important, many were taking part in extracurricular activities, which is a huge step.
I would say a compassionate conservative. I am not so conservative in the handling of money that I would turn my back on those people or those communities who are in need.
How do you relate that philosophy to Mr. Nixon's veto of the HEW bill last night?
I would rather refrain from comment on that at this moment until I can read the entire text.
Cedric, you're a first-round draft choice with the San Francisco 49ers. How does it feel?
It feels real wonderful. I think it's a real great tribute, first of all, to myself, family, and school, North Texas, which I came from.
You're a pretty big guy now. How tall are you, and how much do you weigh?
Right now, I'm about 6'3" and a half, about 255, 260.
You played defensive end. Do you expect to play defensive end at San Francisco?
Well, I hope so. That's what I think they drafted me for. I haven't even read anything. I haven't talked with them. I wouldn't know right now.
You're, as I said, quite a good-sized man right now, but that hasn't always been the case, has it?
No, not really. When I first enrolled in North Texas in September of '65, I was about 5'11", about 175. And each year after that, I've grown just a little bit taller and gained a little bit more weight.
Ministers aren't supposed to have problems. They're supposed to help solve the problems of other people. But in this day and age, even ministers have their problems. That's why today more than 100 ministers gathered here in the First United Methodist Church in Denton to discuss their problems and try to arrive at some solutions. Ministers face the problems of how to relate to the world at large, how to minister to their own congregations, and how to be a person in this world. Can they solve those problems? Most of the ministers here think yes, they can. Despite this confidence, many ministers leave the church. Many potential ministers never go to work for the church. And many ministers are now frustrated in their work. The church itself also has its own problems. The National Council of Churches recently reported it was broke. Mrs. Madeline Murray O'Hare, perhaps America's best-known atheist, has declared herself a church in order to get a tax break. But the Reverend John Fleming of St. Andrew's Church in Dallas thinks Mrs. O'Hare may be among the best things that's ever happened to religion.
For she sticks up an issue that's very black and very white to confront. And so many of our problems are problems that exist in all the shades of gray. And it's it's very refreshing to come along every once in a while and see issues fairly clearly defined, where you can line up on one side or the other.
Speaking to the conference today, the Reverend Tom Shipp said, "Within the United Methodist Church, we must discard some old methods, preserve some old values. Our change must be selective. If we are not selective, we may increase frustration and loss of morale. This may be the first step in some of those changes." This is Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News at the First Methodist Church in Denton.
Our primary purpose is to work out the various problems in Seattle. We want to stay in Seattle, and we wish somebody would come along and say, well, a Tom Yawkey or a Phil Wrigley or somebody say, if this would happen, why we'd all go home.